Good morning. Thank you so much for bearing with us while we get through some of our technical issues. It's really nice to see all of you. Welcome back, Kathy, from being outside of the country. Welcome, Roberta, for representing CB4. Welcome, Nick. We have a lot to talk about, so we're going to get started here with a roll call. Community Board 1.
Welcome, everybody, to our little humble abode.
Thanks, CB1. CB2.
Glad to be here.
Thank you. CB3 is not here, but hopefully she'll get here soon. CB4.
Present.
Thank you. CB5.
I'm Nick Neal, I'm the new chair.
Welcome, Nick.
Welcome.
CB6.
Present.
Thanks, Sandra. Thanks, Sandra, who had a community board meeting last night on Valentine's Day and had a meeting. So thank you for being here bright and early.
Wait a minute.
Wow.
Yeah, I dream about meetings.
CB7.
Present.
Thank you, Beverly. CB8.
Yes, I'm here.
Good morning, Valerie.
Good morning,
CB9.
Present.
First one in the morning besides Tammy. CB10. Marquise is coming. He just texted me. The trains are a mess this morning. CB11.
Present.
Thank you. CB12.
Present.
Welcome back, Kathy. We have Councilmember Rivera's office here. Thank you for being here this morning. We have Councilmember Salam's office who's here. Thank you for being here. Thank you, Jordan. And I see Councilmember De La Rosa's office. Dawn, if we can please promote Kiana Diaz. And I think that's it. De La Rosa. Okay, so we're gonna move on. Do I have I'm gonna share my screen for a second to share the agenda.
Motion to adopt.
Thank you. There's a motion to adopt. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Thank you. Let me just make sure that everybody can see it. So this is the adoption of the meeting agenda. Next, we're going to go to the approval of the January 18th Borough Board meeting minutes. Is there a motion on the floor?
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
I have a
Thank-
question.
Sure.
For some reason, I didn't get this, but I had asked a question about the resolutions that we passed. Is there in the minutes?
I did I'm sorry, Valerie, I thought I had emailed you we reflected the change in the minutes. That was a mistake on a clerical
No,
error.
that's okay. All right.
So with the adjustments to CB8's vote on the first item, I want to make sure that was clarified.
Thanks.
Yeah, there was a second, so all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Any opposed or abstentions? The meeting is, the minutes are passed. Okay, I'm gonna stop share, but basically we're just gonna do we're gonna hear from the borough president, who I think is either on or about to log on, and then we're gonna talk about the budget, and then we'll go to chair reports and adjournment. So forgive me again for not printing this out for you guys today. But I'm gonna stop share. And do we have the borough president on? But we have a council member here. Great. Thank you. And I see our borough president, Mark Levine's on. Okay, so moving right along while our borough president is getting set up, I think we're gonna pass the floor to our council member. If you would like to give us any brief report on anything or share anything with the group, then now will be the time to do it. And then we'll move to the VP and then we'll vote.
All right, great. I'll be quick so we can vote. First, thank you to Community Board 1 for hosting us. And nice to see everyone, Councilmember Keith Powers. Just wanted to say hello and thank everyone always for everything you guys are doing. We had a town hall with the mayor the other day, so I don't know if the folks tuned in or had the opportunity to see it, but got to cover a lot of issues around my district, the east side, but a couple things impacting right now with closure of Beth Israel Hospital, which some folks know we are fighting on with you on that. So we are fighting to make sure that does not happen and that we are well protected when it comes to our healthcare on the east side. I'll be reintroducing shortly a bill I know many of you pay attention to. I want to thank Community Board 8 for spending a lot of time on it, which is about shutting down illegal cannabis stores, which would allow the padlock to stores and actually close it down. So I'll be reintroducing that bill soon. Also, with the borough president, I've been working on Sidewalk sheds that most people are familiar with, you did a great report on last year, so we're gonna be reducing that legislation, hopefully getting all that passed early this year, and then obviously just focus on budget and getting restoration to a lot of services we care deeply about, because a lot of harmful cuts that are in there. So we'll be working very diligently to make sure our agencies don't get slashed. Just a lot more happening in the area, all around the talked about rezoning, deal with housing crisis, and much more. Anyway, I'll leave it to the borough president because update as well.
Thank you so much, council member. Borough President, thanks for joining us. Just to catch you up, I hope you could hear all that. We're just doing a little bit of we're working in CV1's office, thankfully. So just to catch you up, the council member Powers just gave a report. He's here, and then you'll give your report, and then we'll move on to our budget item.
Great, and great to hear the report from Councilmember Powers. Sorry we can't be in the usual location, but trust me, when you come back, hopefully by the next month, you're gonna love the new improved Manhattan Borough President's Office. First upgrade since the 80s. Very excited. Welcome to all of you. I understand we have Nick Ethaniel here, who's his first debut as CB5 chair. Welcome. And I just want to shout out Vicky Barbaro, who has served CB5 so ably for decades. Really, we're just so grateful for her leadership, and congratulate her on her retirement. Little good news to kick things off today that you might not have heard about. The mayor and the administration have approved an increase for managerial workers across agencies and city government, and that applies to community board staff. So your district managers and assistant district managers will be getting a 3% raise, I believe, also retroactive with a lump sum payment, I believe, for years of service going back to 2009. Deirdre Lyles, our wonderful head of HR, is here and can answer questions about that. But good news for your teams. This doesn't come off the top of your community board budget. Just to clarify, this is just the kind of thing that's built into the salary structure. So really a great win for the boards. Of course, today we're passing our charter mandated response to the budget, where we as a borough board synthesize the priorities that each of you 12 boards have created. We did our best really to reflect that consensus. There's also a requirement that each of you pass in an official capacity your own board budget documents. And I know that's happening soon, but excited that we kick it off today. We are also in the home stretch of our application process. We have a week to go for reapplications or new applications to the board. So if any of you are up, please, you've got till February 23rd, but also we're getting a ton of interest from applicants around the borough, and we want to keep that going. We again this year we tweaked the application a little bit. We added a question this year about mental health, and this is a little bit unusual, where we actually specified a policy priority because we just consider it so important, and we want to hear the response of applicants on this. You may have noted if you applied yourself. Last month I spoke very briefly. It was only brief because we were in the midst of voting on a major zoning text amendment. But we put out a report in December that we call Breaking the Cycle, that really looked at the tragedy of people with untreated severe mental illness in the streets, on the subway, in parks. This is something that I know you're experiencing in every one of the 12 Manhattan boards. And it's a tragedy that our city has not provided adequate services to these individuals. And as I may have mentioned, I spent much of the last year visiting all manner of programs that are attempting to reach and serve and bring these individuals in for treatment. I went to psych ERs at hospitals. I went to the State Psychiatric Institution on Randall's Island. I tagged along with street outreach teams, and again and again, I found stuff that's working, but that is just underfunded or too small to reach the scale of the problem. Certainly a topic I'm going to be raising in this budget cycle, and maybe you as individual boards will as well. But, we have a street outreach program, the IMT, intensive, mobile treatment teams that do have success, in bringing people in, but there's a 1,000 person waiting list to become part of an IMT. So there are people who are out in the street with untreated severe mental illness where a city agency has identified that they need a caseworker essentially, and it's a 6 month delay. So one thing we are recommending in our plan is adding, I believe we called for 30 more IMT teams. I actually sat in on an IMT work session where the caseworkers, the social workers, the nurses sit and review the case of every person they're monitoring in the street. And they told me that their biggest challenge is getting a hospital bed for people that they identify as needed to be brought in for an evaluation. And that was also a plank of our plan because there's just way too little capacity in hospitals, including in Bellevue, our flagship, for inpatient psychiatric treatment, especially long-term psychiatric treatment. At Bellevue, there's only 30 beds in their extended care unit. That's the only public hospital in the borough with any extended care unit for psychiatric care. So I could go on and on, but take a moment to read the plan. It's on the website, Breaking the Cycle, and think about it as you develop your own budget priorities in the weeks ahead. Finally, it's Black History Month. I'm very excited. We're doing our annual Black History event coming up on February 20th at Aaron Davis Hall in Manhattan. We'd love for you guys to come out. We're going to be looking at the history of hip hop in Manhattan, an untold story. It's going to be awesome. And then not too far in the future on March 3rd, we have our next week also, I believe a week from today, we have our Lunar New Year breakfast with Assembly members, Grace Lee. Someone confirm if it's a week from today. It's right before the parade. And then March 3rd is our second annual State of the Borough address. So a lot of good activities for you to join in the weeks ahead. Anyway, great to see you all, Borough Board. Thanks so much and have a great meeting.
Thanks, Borough President. Just before you leave us, and I know that Councilmember Powers also is here in person, so I think we're going to move on to our budget response. And if you have to leave, I'm going to go through the regular process, but we'll open up voting now formally, just in case anybody has to leave us early. As the Borough President said, this is a charter mandated responsibility that we do every year. We have reached out to all of your offices, and even if your committees are still dealing, kind of hearing these issues, we ask them for drafted responses. That way we could make sure that our response was reflective of everything that your boards have been working on. The ultimate key document that we're going to submit will have your final resolutions attached to it. So just so you know, if something changes, this is something that we don't normally see a lot of contention with because it's more of like adding to, it's not really kind of pulling away from. We really try to be as expansive and all encompassing as possible while making sure that the ultimate statement doesn't have anything that's specific just to one district, but really captures the overall priorities. So it was sent to you beforehand, and hi Marquise, it was sent to you beforehand. But I can also put it up on the screen just to go at a high level. At the same time, I don't think we have anybody from the public who would like to make a comment on this, but I'm going to officially open it up just in case. If you would like to comment on this, please raise your hand and we'll give you a few minutes to make a statement. But otherwise, I'm going to share my screen in a second just so that everybody can see the drafted document. Just 1 second, please. Okay, so hopefully everybody can see that. I'm not going to read the whole thing to you because I know everybody can read this over and hopefully has had a chance to see it, but I'm just going to go highline the thematic kind of pieces that we pulled out. overall, we start with housing security, insecurity and affordability, including tenant protections. We can go over this a little bit slower, but I'm just at a high level. We discussed funding repairs and maintenance at NYCHA. We discussed investing in climate resiliency. Transportation in the public realm. Public safety. Healthcare access. Support for asylum seekers. Sanitation. Oh, hi Deirdre, thanks for coming here. Older services for older adults. Education and youth programming. Oh. You know what, and I'm so sorry, forgive me, but there was also, I have to double check, I thought we had a last minute addition of an arts and culture section. So forgive me, but I'm gonna.
On the last page.
There's another
page.
Oh, I'm sorry, then I'm pulling the wrong copy. And then for those who have physical copies, yeah, there's an arts and culture section at the very end. And I'm gonna see why that was probably an earlier draft that I had pulled up. But that just goes to show you that as of, I think 2 days ago, CB4 passed their committee level resolution on this. And we saw that the CB4 had put in an arts and culture section, which I thought was so great. And so we just less than 24 hours or 48 hours ago, were able to add that section as well. Oh, there's a whole other page. Oh, and thank you. So sorry, I'm gonna reshare again. Oops. Forgive me.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, 1 second. Let me just go through these other ones. Sorry.
Yeah.
So in addition to that, community board support, can't forget that, obviously, accessibility improvements, food insecurity, public restrooms, and then yes, funding for the arts. So forgive me, for some reason, the printout came strange. So I'm gonna stop share. All of this was emailed to and shared with all of the voting members of Borough Board, but yes, Tammy, go ahead.
So one of the greatest proliferants of enforcement issues that we have right now is the lack of manpower to empower either the city sheriff or NYPD for illegal tobacco and illegal cannabis. While
Okay.
cannabis is a state-run program, what we're finding is stores are opening that sell both. So getting actually enforcement, we've had ones open up 24 hours. And then be rated and then reopened. And so there needs to be something in the city budget to account for the proliferation of illegal stores.
Yep, that. Go ahead. So, Chris, Carol, if John, you can promote Chris and just to, I don't think it's a problem for us to add additional language on enforcement. If it's not, oh, great. He just sent me a note. Yes, he's taking notes and can add this to the budget, the response, no problem.
Thank you.
Then we'll go to Xavier and then Beverly and then Roberta. Go ahead, Xavier.
Yeah, just to add points to that is that the sheriff Miranda, it takes him about a week to execute and raid. So the max they can actually do under the current funding model is about 52 or so a year. And they need an enforcement mechanism citywide. So just reinforcing that and language that will reflect the limitations of the state legislation, which we've advocated for changes in it. However, we're not getting much traction.
No problem. No problem. Getting a message from Chris saying, yes, taking notes, adding language. Go ahead.
Under the transportation and public realm item, it would be helpful to have something referencing pedestrian safety. And that's a huge concern in our district and others.
Chris just said yes, but I'm gonna pull it up just so that everybody can see that. It's also public safety. Yes, that's you saying yes. Can add it both to public safety. It's also in public safety. Oh, it's in, and now he's moving into transportation. Okay. Perfect. So Beverly, he said it's in public safety. We can add language and make sure it's in transportation too.
Okay.
Roberta?
Fantastic letter, really hits all of our points. I think in our district, one of our top priorities remains Department of Buildings code enforcement. And part of that is because they are involved, various owners are involved in tenant harassment and illegal demolitions of buildings, and ensuring that we have proper funding so that we can staff the code enforcement is key to ensuring that those individuals are not ultimately displaced.
I
Preserving
know
our.
from Chris saying, great points, we'll add language. Okay, so just to recap, just to make sure, we're adding more language on enforcing particular enforcement and limitations of state ability to do so with cannabis. We're doing more language on pedestrian safety, just making sure that it's both in transportation and public safety, and then we're doing DOB enforcement language in there. Are there any other additions? And forgive me for not catching those beforehand. We've tried to be all encompassing here. Okay, and I'm just gonna do one more quick check. If anybody online would like to make any statement around this, otherwise we're gonna move to a vote. Okay. So do I have a motion with those 3 amendments, which thanks Chris for making changes to that and taking notes.
When
So-
is the deadline on this?
The deadline's next week, actually, so I know that I think. Chris, if you can tell me the exact deadline, we had said, I think it was either the 24th or the 25th. I know that your committees and full boards may not have been like totally done with their 26th. Made Borough President, if I could just get your vote, I know you have to move on. Oh, shoot, I think I just lost him. Okay, we'll get him in a second. But the deadline's 26th. If your boards have not passed their full board resolution yet, it's okay. We'll probably submit our statement and then say that we're adding as an addendum all of the board resolutions on this, but we have been in contact with all of your district managers already, so we got drafted wherever you guys were in the process. We either grabbed your committee resolution or grabbed your full board resolution. Okay, I think, oh yes, and if we are a day, no, from Chris, if we are a day or 2 late, that's okay. We will take up the fight against the charter police. That's his comment on this. Okay, with that, I'm gonna move to a vote. So we're gonna go first to our council members who are in the room so that they can continue on with their busy days. Let's see here. I have Councilmember Keith Bowers.
Aye.
Thank you. Councilmember Ayala's office.
Aye.
Councilmember Rivera's office.
Yes.
Councilmember Salam.
Aye.
Thank you. Let me just make sure I have, Councilmember De La Rosa.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah. Which motion are we voting on right now? For the
This
budget
is
one?
the budget resolution.
Aye.
Thank you. CB1,
Abstain.
okay. CB2,
I'm gonna change that to say yes. We just haven't done ours yet, but we'll be fine.
okay, thank you. CB2,
Yes.
thank you. CB3 is not here, CB4. CB4,
Aye.
CB5.
Aye.
Thank you. CB6,
Aye, again, we haven't voted yet, but,
okay. CB7,
Aye.
thank you. CB8,
aye with the, no, we haven't voted yet.
yep. CB9,
Same note, we haven't voted yet, aye.
CB10,
Same as, yes.
thank you. CB11,
Equally, we haven't voted yet, but,
Okay.
and we vote a week from today.
Yep.
basically. So,
CB12. Kathy.
Sorry, yes.
Okay, and we're gonna leave the floor open. I think the borough president's trying to log back on, but if not, then we'll issue his vote for him. But Eric, if you could just make a note for Mark, if he can still join in to cast his vote, he can. But he can also just let us know. I'm sure that it's in the affirmative. Okay, unless I missed any other council members, or votes, the response passes. I want to thank especially the council member offices for being here. I know that it's sometimes tough, to get here, particularly because we seem to pick days that are on stated meetings and things like that, which are just the worst days to do this. But in order to get a forum for Borough Board, which is not every month, but it happens to have been the last 2 months, it's really important. So thank you guys both for being here. Hi. That's okay, Andrea, perfect. We'll keep the voting open. Thank you all for being here too. There's just some things with Borough Board that are charter mandated responsibilities, and I really appreciate you all being here and just being able to cast your vote and help us do the work of the board. So thank you. Okay, with that, we're gonna move on. Except that Andrea, I'm gonna give you a second to settle in. No. You're fine. We're just about to finish up closing up the item around the budget. So take a minute to breathe. We'll keep the voting open. Whenever you're ready, I'll give you a couple minutes to take a look. We're looking at the budget response. And there's our borough president on, so we're looking at the budget response, which we just adopted or still are voting on, but with 3 additions to it. Hi, Borough President, if you just want to cast your vote, the 3 additions are on enforcement for cannabis, on DOB enforcement mechanisms, and on public pedestrian safety language on those 3 things. But with those,
Great, thank you. I will be voting aye.
thank you so much and have a good day. Good luck with the rest
Thank
of your craziness. Yep. And so Andrea, just like I said, there are 3 additional pieces to that we just added in terms of language, but with those additions, we tried to get all of your board's kind of committee reports on these ones, which are mostly done in committee right now. We understand that it's early in the process. It's just that the budget responses are due technically on the 26th, so we wanted to vote on it this month instead of waiting. So if you feel comfortable voting in the affirmative for that, great. If you want to abstain or not vote or whatever you want to do. Yes, okay, great. CB3 votes yes. Mark Levine votes yes. We're gonna close voting on this, or I guess we'll keep it open until the end of this meeting, just in case any other council members are in attendance, and we're gonna move on. Great, thank you, everybody, again. And well, like I said, if you could, I made this request, I think, to the borough, to the district managers last month, but in general, it's really helpful when we get CC'd on your resolutions, just both for this issue and for any other issue. That way, if there's something that we can follow up on, if there's something that we should be aware of, sometimes we get CC'd and sometimes we don't, but for this one, for the budget, if you can just please remind your district managers or the people who are handling your budget committee, to send us a copy of your final resolution. We'll send all of the final resolutions as an attachment to City Hall. Okay, we are gonna move on. We're gonna move on to chair reports. And I just wanted to say, just check in one more time, since I so appreciate the council member reps being here. If there's anything that you want to share first with us in terms of your office, then I would happily give you guys a moment to do so. Otherwise, thank you, Councilmember Ayala's office. Thank you, Councilmember Rivera's office. Thank you, Councilmember De La Rosa's office and Councilmember Salam's office for being here. Really appreciate it. Go ahead.
Just a quick thing, couple notes. We just introduced some legislation on the asylum seekers and economic and healthcare service. If you all want to take a look at that, if you have any questions, please let me know. And then the same bridges issue, you know, we continue to visit, we continue to be involved. So if you have any questions on that, please let us know as well. But thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, moving on. So it's February somehow. That means it's CB2's month to start. So we'll give the floor over to you, Susan.
Thank you, Tricia. Let's see, we had 2 interesting presentations this month. The first one out of traffic and transportation, dealing with the year progresses. We also had a presentation by SAPO, it's a never-ending challenge to figure out how to represent a community when you hear applications for events that occur before you actually get to vote on them. Two resolutions this month coming out of our executive committee, because of timing issue, well, not just timing, but we originally, CB2 was supposed to have a joint meeting with CB6 this month, dealing with the Beth Israel closing. Unfortunately, because, representatives from Beth Israel and DOH pulled out of the meeting, we did not participate in that, but we do want to support, all opposition to it. We want more information about it. One thing that's become clear is that as more and more hospitals close, the ripple effect just grows. There are the hospital, then the remaining ones then have to serve larger and larger areas. So the ripple effect of every additional closing just goes out further and further into more and more communities. The second reso is for making a hybrid should be permanent and eliminating the quorum requirement. I think this is something every single board in the city needs to get behind, and that we should be supporting this type of change as a block. It affects everybody in the city, every borough, and it's a never-ending challenge. Not to mention a huge drain of resources that are desperately needed to do other things. And the last item is we are gearing up for the permanent outdoor dining applications that start to come in next month. We are expecting them to be in the hundreds, to say the least. And with only a 40-day window for processing, it is figuring out how to do right and try to at least see in some way, every single thing that enters our office. So that's a challenge that we are working on. And that's it for us.
Great. Thank you so much, Susan. Go ahead.
I'm about to head out. Would it be helpful if I shared CB4's?
Yes, it really would. Go ahead. And that's okay, Andrea.
I do not mean to.
No.
Okay, I'll be very quick. So first, our various committees have been looking at the Port Authority bus terminals project draft environmental impact statement. It's been released. We're having various hearings throughout the month. Similarly, NYCHA released a draft scope of work relating to the potential work at Fulton and Elliott Chelsea houses, and we are conducting various hearings on this and look forward to passing a letter out of full board relating to that particular document. We are also this month going to hold a hearing on casinos generally. We do not have any specific applicants, but just to gather community feedback on the topic. And then finally, some of you may be familiar with Pier 76 in Hudson River Park. Our Waterfront Parks and Environment Committee recommended to full board to adopt the statement of principles for Pier 76 that was created at a task force involving representatives from some of the Manhattan community boards.
Very cool. If you don't mind, I think I've heard some folks in the past request to get copied of the statement of principles afterwards. So if you don't mind sharing that with us or sharing that with the larger group, that would be really helpful.
Sure. I will email it to you and feel free to share it. It's not I think that the board is amending the statement of principles a little bit. So I don't know if it'd be better to wait until after we've adopted it at full board in March, I guess.
And that's
but we'll do it after that.
Great. Thank you so much for being here.
Yes, thank you for letting me jump at the line.
Before we move on to Andre, I just wanted to mention, forgive me, I wanted to make sure everybody saw and knew that we have a new general counsel in our office, Peter Torre.
Yes.
So, hi, Peter. I hope you saw the great sigh of relief that this entire room had when I said that we have general counsel. Peter's already been hitting the ground running, and I wanted to give him the floor to say a couple words. I thought that when I kind of figured that we were going to be moving pretty quickly through this agenda, so I asked Peter if he could stay on for both now and then at the end of the meeting, just in case you guys had any open-ended questions. But we can also make individual meetings if you had anything. I know that's been a long slog without having a general counsel in our office, and I'm just very happy that Peter's on board. He's already had a really nice, funny spectrum of questions come through the store, which has been fun. But Peter, I'll pass it off to you just to say a quick hello. And forgive me for not doing this earlier.
No, that's totally fine. Good morning, everyone. My name is Peter Torre. I am the new general counsel for the Manhattan Borough President's Office. I think I've worked with some of you in the past. For a little background, I spent 5 years at the New York City Council, and before that, 4 years at the law department. So my entire career has been in public service, and I'm happy to continue it at such a great office, working with, I'm elected as effective and as driven as Mark Levine. So like Trisha said, if you had any questions for me, please feel free to reach out. Yeah, looking forward to working with everyone. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Peter. CB6 resident, no less.
Contact information.
Oh, yes, Peter, if you could please put your contact information in the chat, and then I'll, I think it's P. Torre, is that right?
It's a peter.torre@manhattanbp.nyc.gov, and I will put that in the chat.
Thank you.
And how do you spell Torre?
Torre.
Yeah. Torres without the S, like Joe Torre. It used to be a lot more relevant 20 years ago, but hopefully that still works for people.
Still relevant.
There we go. There we go. Okay. Thank you,
could
folks.
Email that to all the district
Yes,
managers
please, yes.
and the chairs. That would be
Thank
really
you.
helpful.
Absolutely.
Probably also have them join Borough Service Guidance.
Most definitely, yeah. And I know that a lot of things, I know I've spoken to, I think, literally I've spoken to half of you in the last 24 hours about, and mentioned, introducing Peter to you on a one-on-one meeting or something like that. So, this is just the start of I'm sure, many, many discussions. So it's nice. Thank you, Peter, for being here. Okay. I just had forgotten back and forth. We're gonna move on to CP3.
Sure. Hi, everyone. Good morning again. We are about halfway through our committees right now. This is a earlier week for us to start, for me to be at Borough Board. So I only have a few committees to report on. We also heard from DOT on a waterfront access study last night. However, it remains unfunded. So it was just an informational presentation. Similar to CB2, we're also have concerns about outdoor dining applications, primarily the strain on the office that has, especially after, the massive amount of applications and confusion that came from cannabis. It feels very, a little bit whiplash to go dive right into that. So that's been something we're concerned about. And we also, as many of you know, we're home to the city's migrant reticketing center, which has caused a lot of consternation among a lot of people locally. We're a very welcoming community, so a lot of people have stepped up to try and coordinate, but we do need or try and coordinate care and cohesion among the park where it is. So Office of Emergency Management called a meeting of all of the community stakeholders. The board was one of those, and so we're engaging in ongoing coordination at all levels of community stakeholders, the boards, the local representatives, and OCM, and the commissioner will be at our full board meeting at the end of the month, and we welcome more transparency and communication, because we think of that. And then we're also very grateful to Councilwoman Rivera for introducing a number of resolutions this past month or last month that I can't quite keep track now, but related both to Mount Sinai, Beth Israel, and opposing the closure, and also in getting the mayoral administration to address some of the issues that we're facing in the neighborhood. So that's it.
Thank you so much, CB3. CB5.
Thanks, Trisha. Some highlights from CB5 this month. We testified against the green housing fast track proposal because it takes valuable input from community boards away on development projects. We also commented on the City of Yes zoning text amendment. We were mostly in support of the provisions, but we expressed concerns about some of them, and we voted to deny unless those concerns were addressed. And we paid tribute to Vicky Barbero, who stepped down from the board after 30 years of service, 15 of those as chair.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to say something just because Vicky's been around as long as I've been in public service, and she was the first, remember serving for a member of Congress, and people used to fight over who would get CB5 because they ran such a good meeting, and I remember only going whenever I won, basically, and I'm not gonna say which board people did not fight over going to at that time, but I would go to CB5 and I would see Vicky up there, and she was the first thing I learned about community boards and public service, and she's an absolute treasure, and I'm very grateful to her, and I know that Vicky has looked at you as a mentee for many years, and so we're really excited to have you on board, Nick.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Okay, we're gonna move on to CB6.
Great. The MTA came to our transportation committee and did a presentation on congestion pricing. And we realized there's still a lot of confusion about what's happening. So we encouraged everyone to submit comments. March 11th is the deadline. It was helpful. It's the first time the MTA has actually, come and explain some of the aspects of congestion pricing. EDC, we're reviewing the Spark project and trying to get affordable housing as part of that project. So that's something that we're actually looking to the borough president to help us get some of that information and see what we can do to make it affordable. We finally passed a reso, we passed a reso regarding MSBI. So we now have an official position from our board, and we look forward to joining the coalition.
Thank you so much, and thank you to CVs 3, 5, and 6 who were at the mayor's community discussion. There was a lot of conversation around MSBI, and we're very happy to be joining you in those discussions. Next over to CV7.
There seems to be just suddenly a great deal going on. We found out yesterday that the ULURP application that we've co-sponsored with Landmarks West for the ABC site, which is Central Park West in Amsterdam between 66 and 67, that the certification will be delayed. We're looking into that. The application calls for a zoning map amendment to include that block in the special Lincoln Square district. It was originally omitted from that district because of the special use as a broadcast facility. But since ABC is leaving the site and has sold it, our concern is that a super tall could be built there unless it is put into the special district. And I wanted to thank the borough president and many of our other elected officials for writing a letter in support of our application. That was much appreciated. We voted to support the BSA proposed rule changes regarding seeker and at full board this month, but also included a comment that we think that we would like to see looked at the regulations regarding environmental quality review for very, very large sites, which currently are as of right and proceed without any review at all on that. But we supported the BSA position that for smaller sites, these reviews are excessive and can prevent small affordable housing projects from moving forward. So that was a sort of a mixed statement from our board. We held a public hearing Tuesday on congestion pricing. And then we put up an online link for comments and got over 90. Although it was the day of the storm, so relatively few folks actually turned out for the meeting. But I think there were a couple of comments that resonated for us, and we're encouraging people to write in those comments. The fact that drivers on the West Side Highway who want to go to New Jersey and go through the Holland Tunnel or the Lincoln Tunnel have to pay to get that little dip into Manhattan before they hit the tunnel, which seems to us to be sort of fundamentally a problem in terms of the way, the equity of the program works. And just north of the zone, at 59th Street, there are buildings where the garage availability for cars is right across the street inside the zone. And they'd have to pay to get their car out, even though the building is on, the north side of 59th. So these weird kind of edge phenomena, I think the MTA needs to look at as well. And then there are just general fears that were expressed by so many of our residents about how to handle the congestion pricing fallout, many of which are coalescing around the idea of resident permits. But there's also significant opposition to that. So we're struggling with that issue, and I'd love to hear if there are other districts that have figured out kind of what position they are taking on that matter. Passed a resolution at our full board supporting reducing the voting age in New York to 16, and requiring civics education in schools. We have been notified that a 74th Street site, the old Calhoun Elementary School, is going to be turned into a shelter for women. We approved an LPC application around that site, which was just the physical adaptation for handicap use. And we're doing a public hearing this month at our Health and Human Services Committee on the programmatic side. So that's moving forward. At our full board in February, we had, I think, 27 very passionate speakers opposed to a reciting of the West Prep Academy, but from the Bloomingdale School to another site. We had worked very hard with that school over many years to build a all access playground that would serve it and be available to those students, because that school has almost half of its students with IEPs. And this would essentially eliminate their access directly to that school. So we are following up with more activity around that. It's supposed to be on the agenda of the PEP in March, and there's just tremendous concern in our district about it. We're also at Health and Human Services doing this month a presentation and probably a resolution on the health dangers of plastics in the environment. And last month we approved a resolution against illegal mopeds at our full board, and we're very excited that DOT has selected the West Side as the site of its smart curbs pilot program, to the area between 72nd and 86th Street, from Broadway to Central Park West is the defined area that they're looking at in this pilot program. And we've attended heavily a number of the meetings that DOT has held to get public input over what folks would like to see in the way of curb use. And we also have been focusing on daylighting, and our transportation committee approved a resolution Tuesday on specific sites in our district we would like to see prioritized for a daylighting treatment. That's it.
Please.
Just
Happening on the Upper West Side. I just want
Sorry
to
to be so long.
No, you're fine.
Great.
I just wanted to make a note, Tammy had either a comment or a question, but I have a number of team members who are listening into this meeting, and just to note, they said that we are tracking that school relocation, and they said that the meeting has been moved to the April pet.
Oh, thank
Pet
goodness.
meeting, so just
Yeah.
FYI,
So we
they're,
have a little time.
yeah, they are watching it, people are taking notes on all this stuff, just so you're aware, we have a.
Yeah, I mean,
several units
the
there.
building they wanna move the school into needs a huge amount of physical work. Capital budget expense work, to make it even viable for this school. And they wanna move them in September, and that's, that's a non-starter right there.
Yeah.
In terms of the time horizon.
So just FYI, April, and then we'll go to Tammy.
So I wanted to ask about the shelter. Did you have any notification prior to the setup? Did they include the community board at all?
We got the 30 days notice, actually, well. How to say this? This won't open for a year. There's major construction that's needed to make it viable. But I have no idea when they reached their decision. We knew 30 days before the LPC item that this was in fact going to be the use for the building.
And
our
how long did
our
they?
council member and our board are very concerned because we have so few sites for affordable housing. We would have liked to see this site done for that purpose.
So how long after your 30-day notice did they come?
They're about to come for the programmatic side.
And when did you get the 30-day notice? I have a reason for asking, which when I get to my report.
I guess we had maybe 60 days notice, but for before that.
Gotcha. Okay.
They're coming next week to our to do the programmatic side.
We've been joined very appropriately by our council member for the Upper West Side, Councilmember Brewer. Thanks for being here. We'll let you get settled in and we can then move on to
keep going.
Okay. So next we're gonna go to CBA.
Good morning, everybody. We said goodbye to our chair, Russell Squire. He had a great run and it was, we did a lot of great things under his leadership. As Keith Powers, one of our council people was mentioning, our health and safety committee in conjunction with our street life committee held a meeting regarding Keith's proposed anti-nuisance law, the nuisance law legislation, which we passed a resolution asking for its quick passage, and we would hope that other community boards would take a look at the legislation as well to help us aid in the closing of these illegal cannabis shops. Everyone keeps talking about the reason we need the legal ones is so people won't enforce the law against the illegal ones. But we still don't think that the correct enforcement is there. And to your point earlier, we need a lot more of it because it's like a whack-a-mole. And it's just very frustrating for everyone in the community. And I think also frustrating for people who want to approve these legal shops. Everyone is very reticent about doing it. We've actually had 2 or 3 open up in our district. We've already had a couple of problems with them, not complying with advertising law in the neighborhood. And I've actually walked into some of the shops on my own to sort of update them on what being a good neighbor is all about. So anyway, that little aside. We started, given what happened with Koya and economic opportunity, we've already started investigating the housing opportunity piece. We've encouraged all our members to start attending the sessions and just putting it on our agenda and starting to move forward on that. We also have a special task force looking at the conversion of manufacturing zoned areas into residential. We're trying to put our own plan together before it actually happens because we're not exactly sure what's going to happen with Koyo on that issue. And so we'd like to have some input from our community as to how those sites may or may not be treated under Koyo and what we need in our community and how we can best put a plan forward on that. We have had a congestion pricing task force ever since the legislation was passed in 2019. And it meets regularly regarding all updates. We've been looking at residential parking. We have great co-chairs there. They analyze every document that comes out of the mobility review board. I don't know if any of you have ever gone to our website, but if you look at the minutes from our congestion pricing meetings, you can get a distillation of the 800-page EA that was done. And we have a very split board on congestion pricing. I will say that this last month, we put forth a resolution that was passed at the full board, asking the MTA that when congestion pricing goes into effect, we want to see monthly reporting with down deep, transparent figures about what it's showing in terms of what they're collecting, what effect it's having. And we would hope that all of you would do the same.
Can you send the reso around?
Okay, we can do that. And we have also, we also passed a Roosevelt, I never want to forget our Roosevelt Island component. We are actively trying to get REOC engaged in the community over there. It's been very difficult with a change in management and their former management suing REOC for their displacement. So we're really, we have a great committee co-chair over there, Paul Crickler. I'm trying to really engage the community and get everyone involved in what's happening over on Roosevelt Island. They've been suffering with this construction on like their only subway line into the island. And it's been very difficult, but we've been trying our best there. On a positive note, we opened a hockey rink at 96th and FDR. Oh, the representative from Representative Ayala's office, who's the newest councilman added to our repertoire of council people at CBA. The New York Rangers and Benjamin Moore provided the public funding for $220,000 refurbishment of that rink. And it was really great, very well attended, and the kids were loving it. And so it's a great opportunity for everyone in the community to get out and try a new sport. So that was really awesome. And I just want to end by saying that we sponsored an amazing crafts fair. We had over 100 vendors at our local middle school. One of our vendors was our own Trish Shimamura, great artist. I don't know if you've ever seen any of her work. But like I said, we had over 100 vendors and really just a great community outpouring. It was a great way to feature, crafters in our district, as well as sort of promote the idea of the community board. And it was great. We had traffic all day long, and I think it was successful from everyone's point of view. Just something positive you all might want to think about. It took a lot of work. Our staff really was doing a great overtime job in preparing for it, and people are very excited. We actually had to turn crafters away. We had so many that wanted to come. So
can I say something about that? I've spoken to, we have a lot of new chairs, and it's been really lovely to sit down with a lot of you and talk to you about your committees and what you want to accomplish. And but sometimes I've had a couple conversations, at least 2 or 3, where somebody has said, like, I really want to get this committee chair to be more productive, or I really want them to think about to have some concrete goals that they want to get in mind. And I really do want to applaud you guys with what you've done on CBA. It is a real service. It's positive, and it's lovely, and it's just a lot of, frankly, it's just a lot of hearts, stars, and rainbows when you go. It's people coming together. It's a real product that you can put out there, and in terms of engaging with community and getting them to see what a community board is and how it can be effective, and people who have a lot of energy and want to put their time into something but don't maybe know how to do that. I really would encourage you to maybe talk to Valerie or see what they were doing there. It's a beautiful thing, and I wish I could say that without, saying that I also am a part of it, because even objectively, without, the fact that I love it and I love participating and seeing and going anyways, but it's a really lovely thing that you guys put on. And so if you are thinking about your committees, or if you're hearing that you're trying to get your committees to be a little bit more targeted, or thinking about something that they can work on in the next year, something like that, something in the kind of public, in real service oriented capacity is maybe an interesting thing to think about for some of your committees. So thanks,
Appreciate that.
Yeah. Okay, we're gonna move on to CP9.
Yes, good morning, everybody. Excuse me, a little hoarse this morning. Last, general board meeting coincides with this meeting, so even though we voted, said yes, we reviewed it afterwards. And for the most part, we approved with some caveats around some of the same issues we had here at the board meeting, so it went well. This past Monday, we had executive board meeting, we went over the budget. And as always, housing, health and youth were the biggest topics. Some infrastructure projects as well that we've been waiting on, just to keep those moving. Should be getting something from our committees very shortly. General board meetings again tonight, so we're pushing to move that. I know you probably heard the mayor announce the trash containerization program to be expanding throughout our district. It was news to me. I found out through the Columbia Spectator newspaper that they called me for an interview, and I said, really? When did that happen? Oh, it happened yesterday. I said, oh, really? I reached out to Department of Sanitation's commissioner, assistant commissioners, for mayor's office. Have yet to hear from anyone. Department of Sanitation is scheduled to be at our general board meeting tonight. So we'll see what happens with that. It's been a controversial issue. Some people love it. Other people don't like it as much. For one reason is we have a lot of brownstone and townhouses with seniors and physically challenged people. Now they have to walk from their homes to this container, 4 feet high lift to drop it in. During this past week with the snowstorm, they were overflowing, garbage everywhere, which defeated the purpose. Normally, they're closed and doing well. I had met with, actually did an interview with CBS News when it first started, and I showed them many of our blocks have containers already that landlords have built next to the building, rat proof. All sanitation would have to do is open the lid, pull out the bag, and drop them in the truck. Then there's the parking issue, which very few people want to hear, but it's reality. As I've told people on the board and outside the board, you can't just, it's a car culture, you can't get rid of it overnight. We need to do better. And I'm a bike rider, car owner, and I walk a lot. So I use all modes, but I see people in the neighborhood, every night someone's parked on the highway, in the crosswalk, in the bus stop. And when I ask, I said, I come home, there's nowhere to park. So what about the garage is all full and they jack the prices up. So it's an issue. We're looking at finalizing a residential parking permit resolution to see if that would help. We have, being uptown, people come across from Jersey, from Westchester, park in the neighborhood, get on the train and go downtown. We see this constant. So with congestion pricing coming, that's just gonna really make it worse. Not to mention now expanding trash containerization to every block, where it eliminates 6 to 8 parking spaces. Doesn't seem like a lot, but it is. And now that people know that I'm the chair, I get stopped constantly. I went out for a walk the other day. It's a nice sunny day. Let me go for a walk. No. What about those? I said, come to the meeting. Don't talk here in the corner. Come to the general board meeting this Thursday. Let sanitation hear. Let us hear what your thoughts are. So that's been a big thing. So residential parking might help. I had the pleasure of meeting with the new Columbia president last month, towards the end of the month. Very engaging, very welcoming. I've met her at breakfasts and other events. So I was encouraged as opposed to prior administration. The administration has changed quite a bit. In my prior life as first and second vice chair, I monitored the community benefits agreement very closely. So my battle with them was quite often. We're just looking for what's due and what's written. As they progress throughout the district, we're losing housing, losing retail shops. So we're looking to make sure we get back what's written. And if we don't advocate, it just goes by the wayside. So that's been a big issue with us. But as I said, she's very engaging, talking about bringing young people on campus. A lot of young people that live 2 blocks away in the housing development think they can't go on campus. Oh, there's a gate and there's a guard. I said, no, it's a walk, you can walk through. So they need to feel comfortable. And as she said, they need to see women on campus that look like them, and just women in general, and people of color. So I'm just kind of excited about her coming. So, and I think that's about it for the moment.
Thank you so much. Your comment, one of your comments reminded me of something that I think CB7 was talking about. And CB8 has done really successfully, and I think actually CB2 maybe as well, but we've been seeing more community boards using online tools to gather virtual feedback on things, so that just in case somebody can't come to a meeting because it conflicts with something else, or because there's a snowstorm or things like that, it's been really helpful. I've seen boards do this, and then board members can really just read at their own, with their own timing, the comments. And I think it's a really helpful tool. We did a presentation on this maybe a year or a year and a half ago. We had CB8 come in actually and present on what they did for the blood center, which was really helpful in terms of just like seeing how, like, getting a lot of feedback on a controversial issue. But you might consider, we can do another training on it, or we can talk to your district managers about it, but setting up a way for people to submit testimony or submit comments on something virtually on your website. 1, it'll increase visitation to your website. 2, it's like an easy way of documenting all of this stuff. Even with like committee meetings or things like that, I'm furiously writing away or somebody else is writing away, but it's just a virtual way of automatically getting that in writing. And it gives you an opportunity, if you are stopped at the grocery store, at the post office or something, saying like, we want your testimony here, you can pass it on to elected officials' offices. So it's something to consider. And we can maybe do a training on it if it's something that people are really interested, or if we can do another one on it. It's a Google thing, or you can do it on a couple different platforms. Right. Just food for thought.
Right, thank you.
Yeah, Valerie?
I just wanted to make a comment because you were saying how you didn't know what the mayor was advocating for. We had passed a resolution in November about a very controversial housing project, and there was supposed to be a hearing about it on February 13th, and no one from city council, the city council subcommittee never even told us that the 94th Street rezoning was on the agenda. And it was only by accident that we found out from our council person who thought we knew about it. And when I asked Will, he said, our district manager, he said that we only get notification like 24 hours before the hearing. That's not appropriate. We need to get some engagement from the city council and the mayor's office on all these things that affect us, that we shouldn't have to be monitoring. They should know that they should be contacting our board offices and give us enough time that we can respond, or have community people, respond and make time to put testimony down.
I can definitely make a note, Valerie, and I know that we had somebody from the mayor's office on. It doesn't look like she's still on the call, although our deputy borough president is, so thanks for being here, Keisha. But I'll try to make a note and mention it to Robin and see if we can get plugged to them. I see 2 more comments, so we'll go to Xavier and then we'll go to Sandra. But can we also, if Dawn's here, if we can promote Keisha Sutton James, just so she can, if she wants to make any comments. So I want to make sure. Go ahead, Xavier.
Just to say, Val, is that we fought for ages to get a pre-ULURP before we actually engaged with the process, and we're now getting that traction. I think even the former borough person, Gail, remembers how much we argued for having enough of a runway since we're all volunteers. And as I put it more succinctly, is that this isn't our paycheck, even though we love what we're doing. So give us the opportunity to actually engage. So I think we could argue a precedence now that we have other agencies engaging in that way.
Go ahead, Sarah.
And we actually heard that, I think CB3 and CB6 are getting freight stops on the Blue Highway. It was announced in, cranes and other publications, and the EDC has never mentioned it, so come to us, give us need information. So it just seemed like an inappropriate thing to learn from that particular person.
Thanks. Okay, we're gonna move on, to CB10.
Good morning. So, CB10, we've got a lot going on. One thing that we're very happy to announce is that we launched a podcast, for CB10, that we're launching. Yeah. And it's titled CB10 Speaks. And so that's on we have Instagram, YouTube going. We started, I think the first episode aired, where we had the borough president and our new district manager who just started kind of talking. We had our next episode features our former borough president as well. And so we have a lot of great things coming, and it's going to be a new hopeful way to connect with our community and really engage them, as well as kind of hear from them. And so that's something that's on the lighter note and the happy note. Today, I don't know, or yesterday, there was an article in the paper, the New York Post, about 2201 Adam Clayton Powell, which is also 7th Avenue and 130th Street, a new migrant shelter that's supposed to be opening in our district. We, at our last week at our general board meeting, we had a lot of comments from our community expressing anger about not knowing that this was coming. Obviously, there was nothing that we weren't notified as a board. There was just rumors that this was coming. We were inundated with pictures from community members taking beds being moved in, things just happening. So people were asking a lot of questions to the community board. Was there a hearing? Was there any type of notification? Which we had none. So that kind of, we felt we were very upset and a little embarrassed that as a community board, we weren't able to kind of provide any information to the community. And so there is a public meeting tonight, I know, in our district about that. It's not linked to the community board as the paper put it, but we're planning to try to have someone come from DHS and other agencies to just go over the process, why we weren't informed, because it's just spewing a lot of anger, frustration. And then there's also different reasons why people are frustrated. Obviously the development that they're planning on using was geared many years ago for luxury housing. It has never opened. Something happened. Why? I'm not sure exactly why. But there were many requests in the past to use that for shelters for residents that live there. And so now, there's a lot of frustration about now it's being used for migrant to come and use that. I also think that we're trying to navigate the discourse around how the community is discussing this too. And I think that's something that I'm being very mindful of and intentional about, as we want to make sure that our community is welcoming of all people. I think that when the city, what we're trying to navigate is when the city doesn't inform the community board, it kind of leaves a bitterness. And this is where I think the city has to be very mindful of what they're doing and how they keep the community involved, so that we don't have what I would call language that we don't support or discourse around migrants and so on and so forth. So that's a major issue right now in our community. And then that links to last month, public safety being a major issue. And so people are connecting it to public safety, not being informed. So we have 2 precincts in our district, one of which is the 28 and the 32. We've had a really great relationship with the 28. The 32 is trying to increase their presence with the community board, but we noticed very different statistics in the 28 versus the 32 as well. So that meaning the 28 is seeing a decrease in certain things, while 32 is seeing an increase, and that's the northern part of our district. And so it's bringing a lot into just some of our questions and making sure we work close with the 32. We also had heated discussion last week at our meeting, general board meeting, from the community expressing frustration about 32nd precinct, and just kind of their lack of involvement with the community. So I think that's something we really, as a board, want to help facilitate. And we see it as an opportunity to kind of lead in that direction. What else? Okay, so with that also, we have some real issues around housing, of course, which is but particularly in our district, we are having some real issues with the privately owned Michelamas or co-ops, specifically Esplanade Gardens and the Savoy, are having some major problems in funding. And so it's led to last month, our housing meeting was inundated with nearly, and our office is very small, we have our committee meetings. We had about 50 people there and out the door, and then over 100 online. Which this was positive for the community. We were very happy, but now it really leads to what can we do and how do we support? And so we are trying to bring together our elected officials to figure out how we can support these community residents, because some of them are in need of major repairs. There's been some problems with money and resources for the Esplanade Gardens, which they just don't have, but we have tenants in one entire building, which is huge, that have since November have been using hot plates. And this is a major problem. And we really, we weren't informed, kind of as the board, and I haven't heard other elected officials kind of bring attention to this, except for Assembly Member Al Taylor has had a walkthrough because that's directly in his district. And then we also have problems with the Savoy, which is another privately owned. These are several buildings, which there's safety problems. They're saying the gates are open, and there's just a lot of things that they're saying that have not been worked on, and they feel that because they're privately owned, they're not getting the support or attention of surrounding these issues. So that's something we're seeking this month to have discussion about, and really trying to come up with solutions, working with elected officials and seeing whatever support we can. Obviously, they're privately owned, so there's some real different parameters. But while we're also addressing, of course, NYCHA issues, we want to make sure that we're not leaving out these privately owned establishments. We also plan this month to have more discussion about transportation and congestion parking and how it's going to impact Harlem, which we feel like that's not been a part of the discussion. And so we want to have a public hearing as well, because we know, just like that, the tunnels, people will not go. It's going to be sending a surge of cars up the Upper West Side and to the George Washington. And just we feel that we'll be inundated with people parking obviously in Harlem and then grabbing the train to go into further downtown. And so we just don't think enough environmental studies have been provided. And so we want to have real conversation about how that's, and hear from the MTA about what are their projections of how that might impact the upper part of Manhattan. I forgot to mention, with public safety, we are also working on a joint public safety meeting, what we would like to do with the uptown boards. I know our public safety committee chair should be reaching out, or should have reached out to public safety chairs. Last month, we also, or I, on behalf of the board, spoke at the mayoral control hearing by the New York State Board of Regents, in which I articulated that we believe that we didn't necessarily come form an opinion about mayoral control, but that the process and whatever needs to happen needed to be reformed to include more community voice, and more checks and balances in decisions being made for New York City public schools. And I'll leave it there.
Thanks so much, Marquise. If you, and as you continue to have meetings on Esplanade Gardens and Savoy, just please make sure that Eric slips into those two areas.
And then the local Mina about
Okay.
scheduling for them.
Absolutely.
Great, thank you. Go ahead.
Can I hop in on one thing? Oh, sorry. It's me.
No, go ahead.
I just wanted to, on the first issue, thank you for addressing the Esplanade and Savoy. I just want to say also that on the first issue, we've also made multiple inquiries, asking because we also got, multiple inquiries about what was happening, because when you see beds coming in, it's clearly not just an individual bringing one bed in, you have dozens of beds coming in at once. We got those photos, and no response. You were not alone, and we're not thrilled not to have gotten a response as to what's happening.
I just wanted to know if that case in particular was related, is OEM, Office of Emergency Management, coordinating the opening of that shelter, or?
I know our district manager's been in contact with DHS.
Okay,
and the
so-
commissioner, and so we believe it's through that department, and we've asked for someone to come before the board as early as next week. I think as of last night, there was something put on hold, to my knowledge, of what I've heard. Again, these are all like not confirmed rumors, but so I'm not sure if they'll be coming next week or not at this point.
Okay, I was just asking because, like I mentioned earlier, OEM
Yeah.
commissioner will be with us, and one of the things that we learned, but this is probably a different case, but one of the things we learned is that they make decisions on where to place things within hours, so they don't, that's why we weren't
But
informed
DHS
for things, but DHS doesn't, exactly, I was just, yeah,
Okay.
so good.
Okay, we're gonna go CB11.
Is Councilman Blank or wish to give her?
No, yeah, of course, I'm sorry.
I'm not okay. A couple of things. First of all, Lincoln Square Special District, which 4-7 knows only too well, but it's complicated. I want to give an example of how complicated it is. So this is huge. ABC is moving downtown. The issue is you can either have a developer who has blank opportunity to build tall buildings. He can do that on his own, or you can try to move the Lincoln Square Special District to include it, which is what we're pushing, the 4-7. However, even if we do that and we get lower side buildings, still tall, no affordable housing, you can't negotiate anything. So we're trying to figure out some other mechanism. It's an interesting problem that nobody seems to know the answer to. So we're charged constantly with City Planning Commission. We're doing a survey of all the schools in District 3 about laundry. I think many more schools should have a washer and a dryer. Many of the kids' parents can't wash. Teachers take the clothes home, bring it back, etc. So we're doing a lot of this with it. We've been working on Canvas for a long time. I can give you, we're up to about 70 now on the Upper West Side, with one coming in that will be legal. And so we're doing a survey. I've been in touch with 10 city agencies, 2 state agencies. I can tell you exactly the process for getting rid of one to padlock. And it's very, very complicated. I won't get into it now, but we're doing a memo so everybody will know exactly what the process is. In terms of billboard, we had one, Board 7 knows. This individual put one up, you can see it all the way to New Jersey. Yeah. And to the question of Jimmy Otto, my friend from serving with him, now commissioner, they are taking it down, but it has to go through a legal process. Everything about it is legal. Everything is illegal. Everything about it is illegal. So if you ever get a big billboard, get it down. We have a newsstand operator who got closed. It's an interesting process. Turns out that a lot of these newsstands are not owned by the person who's sitting there. They're owned by somebody else. So when you get your summonses, which he did, it goes to somebody else. Well, guess what? That somebody else is dead. So we're gonna making a movie out of it. I can tell you this right now. We're gonna make a movie out of it. But the fact of the matter is getting it back open on the Upper West Side. Of course, somebody from Davis Polk showed up and I'm letting them handle it. So the top law firm in New York. But newsstands, I think, do benefit a lot of people, and particularly if they have newspapers. And I think I'm gonna ask, some oversight of how they operate, because I do think the newsstand operators often get hurt quite badly. On the 60-day notices, we have 100% in Manhattan now of if you have a child up to 5th grade, you get told 60 days, you gotta go to the Roosevelt Hotel, but nobody has moved out of Manhattan, nobody. And I've been working on this night and day, I don't care, I get calls from all over Manhattan, from the schools, the district, the parent coordinator stating, Jimmy has to move, we have a form that they fill out, and I have a secret deal, I'll be honest with you, to keep them in Manhattan. So if you have a situation where you hear about a family up to 5th grade,
Now, I have a couple of situations, people got moved to Queens last night to middle school, and I'm trying to get them back, because you cannot get a bus. There's no bus, there's no Metro card, and these parents are amazing, they're coming 2.5 hours from Queens to the schools in Manhattan. But just let us know if you have a situation, particularly with elementary school, because I am not letting them leave the borough. They may have to move hotels, but they stay in the borough so that child can stay in that school. So I just want to mention that to you. We're really pleased with, thanks to Board 4, the Midtown Community Justice Center has now 5 days a week, which is fabulous. And one of the things that Judge Wang is doing, he's a really cool judge, he's gonna work on micro mobility, meaning e-bikes, et cetera. He's going to get a whole task force on that topic, and we're very involved with that. There's something called Pop Wheel. Pop Wheel is this is how to deal with batteries, because charging is a problem. And so I'm not ecstatic. You can see in the neighborhood, everybody knows I'm not happy about one particular location, but this is a great idea. It's basically a vending machine. You stick the old battery in and a new one pops out. And it's $50 a month for the individual, which is not unobtainable. They can do that. And it's in Brooklyn and below. So we're trying to get that on the Upper West Side. 160 West 74th Street. A big developer, he goes around, he buys buildings, then he calls DHS. I wonder who owns that one in Harlem. And he says, I'll have a building for you. And he's got 10 of them around the city. And so he buys a school building and he calls up DHS and says, oh, I have a building for you. That's outrageous. He had promised to do residential, now he's doing shelter. We're pushing to have affordable housing. There's no way that he should when you're starting from scratch, you can do anything they want. It's not an SRO, it's not a dorm, where I support personally people moving in. But this is a brand new building essentially, so he should make it work. But there's a lot of push on that. I do want to say 1710 Broadway is another challenge, that's in Board 5. This is a building that I think you probably know well. It's an interesting process. If Excel owned it, they sold it to a really bottom feeder hotel operator. And because the special permit was not in existence at a certain point, there's no special permit needed for this goddamn, excuse my French, hotel. So we could end up with a big, tall hotel with lousy service in terms of no union jobs, bottom feeder construction, etc. So it's really an unfortunate situation, upsetting to everybody. So we'll see what happens on that one. I can't stand it. I did go on the ride along with NYPD because we all are concerned about level 1, 2, and 3. I have to say, I was there for 6 hours. And I have to say 2 things. One, they need technology. So we're meeting with them on technology to try to improve their technology. I have people doing that. But the other issue is when you are in Queens, where we were, 10 o'clock at night, somebody was shooting, nobody got shot. They disappeared. And the cops had to ask 30 people, did you see anything? Did you see anything? Nobody saw anything. There was no. So then what do you fill out? You fill out 30 pieces of paper? No, actually you don't. No, actually you don't. This is interesting. You fill out, when you go back to the precinct, you say 30 people, ages, I'm making this up, 20 to 35, black and brown, issue, did you see anything? That's basically what you have to do. Now, is that a good thing or a bad thing? I don't know, but I did see with my own eyes exactly what they have to fill out. So I just want to make that clear, not to say that's always like that, but that's something to think about. We're doing today, at Garden Riverside at, I think around 6 o'clock, we're doing CPR training. We got 300 people signed up. I don't know how that's gonna go. People are really, really interested, as you suggested, whether it's figuring out how to deal with beautiful crafts or something that they can learn from. And they all get a certificate, so they're very excited about it. And then we are doing lots of hearings, introducing bills on how to deal with lithium batteries and e-bikes, et cetera, something that I hope people are interested in. We are continuing with oversight and investigations. One of the topics that we're going to be working on is the quite a few people mismanaged, shall we say, the NYCHA money that they were given. And so we're going to be doing some oversight hearings on the issue, and many other oversight. Oath is another topic that we're taking up. I believe that's never been taken up. And I am a believer that people don't pay their bills. And I know that the something like 10% of $300,000 is all the sheriff apparently has collected. But nothing has been paid. $30,000 out of 300 has been paid if you go on, the, online, material. So they're delaying and we all want money, and here we are sitting on, you know, not billions, but hundreds of millions. That is not, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Councilmember. Can I just get your vote on the,
Yes, 100% yes. The only thing I would add to it is one small piece is for the seniors or the older adults, as we call them, me included. I would say you need to mention, something that includes not just the low income seniors. So I would say, can we talk about age-friendly cities? In other words, there's a big push around the country. JCC's doing it, Bloomberg did it. And so you would some kind of sentence that says we also support, including age-friendly policies when we talk about older adults.
thank you. I don't feel like that's a major change, so I think everybody is okay to add that language in.
Thanks.
So,
All right, otherwise it's great.
Thank you so much.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, of course, go ahead.
I can't really see
I'm
you.
here.
Hi
Yep.
there, how are you? Are you aware of this group that's been formed by Borough President Reynoso and Eric Botcher?
Mhm.
Can you talk a little bit about what do you think that's about? Like,
Well, I'm a Liz Kruger fan, to be honest with you. And so, I know she like, I think what has to happen is every neighborhood is different. The east side and the west side, we are the most, I believe, in the US, overdeveloped in terms of numbers. We don't have 1 inch of vacant land, and I assume you're in the same situation.
yeah, well,
So, yeah, so when you have that situation, I want this housing situation to look neighborhood by neighborhood, as opposed to cookie cutter. And so we talk about the FAR issue as an example, of the biggest, what exactly is included as you talk about some of these, super calls? Are we really getting something for? We already have, I think, I was counting the other day, something like 30 new buildings that are 100% expensive. They're all within the zoning code. So they don't want to, it's nothing. So anyway, I'm just saying, I think it needs a lot of attention. I know Open New York, Open, whatever it's called, I'm very excited about it. But I think every neighborhood has to be looked at differently. If you want to convert my SROs, fine. Give me the nonprofit, give me the money, we convert them.
thank you.
I'm just gonna make one comment on that. We have a text amendment that was done in our neighborhood. And every give back that was done to the community for an office building that was built, which included arcades, is now we're reviewing the text amendment again to see if the public benefits that were supposed to be derived from there are actually coming. But one of the things that, when hindsight 2020, when you look past 8 years back, commercial space is now being turned into fully residential. So the public bonus that was given is gone. As of right, being turned into residential, only luxury, no affordable housing. So the community and the public is lost again and again. So I think an FAR increase is a blanket thing, is really not a great thing. We are also in the no land left category in Lower Manhattan, but we have many buildings now that are commercial buildings being changed into residential, and every developer and Repney and everyone has said to us, it's just way too expensive to do affordable housing.
Yeah.
And yet you can do a program through the city to get 20 years of tax abatement to upgrade your commercial building with no requirement for either public benefit, no guarantee that the work is done after you've gotten the grant. There's some serious things that don't seem to make any sense here. And if I'm supposed to be in the quote central business district, I'm no longer a business district if my commercial buildings are being transferred to housing. So
And no benefit.
and no benefits, which isn't, I mean, top to bottom affordable housing, whether is the priority, because you can't fill the schools, you can't fill the streets, you can't do anything unless you have diversified housing, which we're getting more luxury. Okay.
Thank you so much, Councilmember. Okay, we're gonna move on to CD 11.
Now, how do I follow that up?
Very well.
So I've been busy at CB 11, as you know, when are we not? To the point with congestion pricing, our Public Safety and Transportation Committee has been discussing the impact to the community. They will be carrying on and coordinating with CBA and others, and beyond the anecdotal concerns of, we feel like we're actually observing an increase of plates that are from out of state, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Connecticut. And they do come and park and they do go and ride down. And that started, the apex was during the pandemic. That is not abated, unfortunately. We also have a lot of people who are upstate, Westchester, that drive in. It's just easier versus trying to find or pay for parking. For example, and again, big supporter of public transportation, we should be doing more of it. And as Councilmember Brewer can attest, when I came back from London in 2015, advocated for resident parking permits. And I know there's been legislation proposed at the state and at the city. This past Monday was at the Second Avenue Subway Phase 2 update with Esfiat, and Jamie Torres Springer was there. And I had a conversation with him, a sidebar, and said, why don't we implement this? And he says, yes, we like that idea. That's a great idea. And I said, but you should have an exemption for those that reside in Manhattan. And he immediately said, there's no way in hell. Literally just said that point blank. And I said, you're missing the forest for the trees with that, because there's so many residents in Upper Manhattan and then those that are right on the border that are going to be impacted by this in a negative way. And I said, when you look at the central tolling district for London, and I told them very factually, because I lived there for 3 years, they purposefully rolled out the program by slowing the bus service. And that right before it went into effect, and then immediately sped it up. That was a study released some time ago, but I said, you should really consider giving exemption, at least for that. And I can say you're going to see a good portion of your lawsuit be settled at that point. And he said after that, there was no more comment, although it was not the focus of that meeting, which was just Second Avenue Subway. I did want to highlight that to him because it is a concern for our community and our surrounding communities. Phase 2, we've been pushing for that. My grandmother was here when they were, she's turning 99 this year, in the last bits of the Second Avenue L when it was being dismantled. And my dad said it was the longest pitch for a public works project he's seen. And we're very pleased that it's going to be extended. I was there for the announcement of the additional $34.4 billion with Buttigieg. Very excited. It's that meeting that we had on Monday was to deal with the economic benefits, workforce development with the first contract, which is going to be rolled out as a design build. Thank you to our members who oversaw Phase 1 and all of the co-ops and condos who had the equity to be able to file tons of lawsuits. They learned from that, and because we don't have those resources in East Harlem. So we're very excited, wanting to get a lot of people to work. The HERC, to your comment, we will be taking this up at executive next week. As many of you know, when the migrant crisis started, the HERC was activated on Randall's Island. RIPA, Randall's Island Park Alliance, has seen a significant detriment to the island as a resource, and they've had billions of dollars poured onto the island. Myself personally, and when I get a phone call, I will show up. If there's a problem with Johnson houses, I show up. My kids play soccer there. We were fine. Okay, this is a temporary issue, but parents had reminded us the 103rd Street Bridge. The people are on their e-bikes and their mopeds and literally knocking people over. Complete disregard. As you remember, there was murder that happened there. Some argument that happened between two men. It is becoming untenable at this point, but we are going to discuss it. It's not that we don't, and thank you for your comment on language. We're not without empathy. We're not, but it's about how everything's being rolled out and a careful and considered approach bespoke to each community, whilst the federal government determines what they're going to do. And a lot of this is out of our hands. But when I speak to veterans in the community, seniors, those that are on track and to supportive housing from formerly homeless, and people who are taxpaying citizens, they all say the same thing. What about us? Yeah. And that's the general retort. This is not my personal position on it. I'm merely a vessel to bring this to this body and to the community board. We have to do better, and it's important that all of us advocate to our officials and those that we know outside of the state of New York that they have to get some type of immigration reform enacted. So on that, we will be taking a position whether support or not with the HERC issues, and so we'll keep you apprised here. Meeting also too with Diana Ayala's office for the Borough Cultural Arts Center. For those that don't know, this is a huge cultural accomplishment. However, the Hispanic Federation losing the contract because it was awarded for 10 or so years, it's left in a purgatory, and a lot of people don't want to see that turned into. The school wanted to take it over. They were delayed moving on to 96th Street. As you remember, there's a lawsuit that was filed by and several amicus briefs with this 96th Street development where they had taken parkland and dispossessed it to build this super tall that was to contain 3 schools, and now it's downsized to 2 schools. This school that we have over there was to temporarily house them there. They want to take over, DOE wants them to take over. Diana Ayala has said, no, we're against that. Luckily, EDC is playing ball with us, and they're willing to do a net negative on whoever gets the next RFP, but they want to make sure the space is activated. So there's going to be an MOU, EDC and DOE, that DOE manages the space, and they can't say no to community residents in the meantime. So that's an ongoing issue. Final bit, public safety, and there's tons as we always have. Public safety and transportation. We are having a discussion coming up, and I mentioned this earlier, and we're going to have a presentation by the district attorney's office on issues with discovery, bail, and raise the age, to talk about amendments that some of them have been are public, and others they want us to consider to make it easier for them to do their job, so they're not having to decline to prosecute so many different times. And that also impacts issues with cannabis, which again, we're not anti. We're about legal, and we're having the same issues as everyone else. The unfortunate thing is that we're seeing a lot of needles being handed out and discarded still in our neighborhood. Mount Sinai is trying to play ball with us and trying to redistribute for methadone treatment. SVOT's been convening meetings, and I met with them personally on Saturday to discuss this issue. We need good partners, in any way that this office can assist us, we will greatly appreciate it, because neighbors, whether they live in public housing or on 96th Street or all the way up into Riverton, they all share the same concerns. So with that, I'll leave my report. I thank you all for your service.
Thanks, Xavier. I just wanted to make a mention, Deirdre has been with us. Oh, thank you so much. So oftentimes we don't get to see Deirdre, but she's always here when we need her. Mark had mentioned her in his earlier comments about the managerial increases. I know that a few people had questions about it. I wanted to make sure, Deirdre, you knew Valerie, our new chair over there, because I know you guys are.
Yeah, I know there's a lot of
talking.
chairs that, yeah.
So thank you, Deirdre, for being here. Thank you. She's got another meeting, but in case you need to talk to Deirdre about any HR related things, sometimes you come talk to me first, and I appreciate it, and then I just need to get into the better habit of like then looping in Deirdre when things become more of an HR thing and not a personal CV thing. So so just so you know, and then if you have any questions about those managerial increases, we're still trying to get more information about it. I know it's very new. I don't have a lot of information. I think Valerie asked about timing, or maybe Susan. Somebody asked about timing and things like that. I don't know if we have
we still don't have an actual date. It's been communicated to me, the pay dates will be sometime in May for the managerial increases. So if you have questions on that, you can give me a call. Just quickly, what I will share is that the 3% managerial increases that are retroactive to 2021, those are not merit increases, so you will not be required to submit any sort of documentation to approve. That won't be necessary. I know in the past, I think it was required, but it's not required now. Last night, you probably received a memo from Jay Gottlieb, who's the OMB liaison for the community boards. And that memo had to do with an additional increase that is available and eligible to be paid out to the district managers. And if you have any questions regarding that, you can speak with Jay directly. And it's a bit confusing.
There are two.
So there are two. So it's the actual wage increases, which is the 3% that's retroactive to 2021. So it's for 2021, 2022, 2023. And then there's an additional increase that is available for the district managers and anybody that's in the assistant district manager title that's effective January of 2024.
And they have
that one requires, if you, that one you can speak to Jay about that, but if you tell him it's something that you don't want to participate in, or you don't think, I don't know exact wording, you can reach out to him. There's a March 15th deadline for that. So I know it's a lot, but if you have more questions, you can certainly give me a call. Actually, I'm supposed to be in an HR meeting downstairs, and I hope a lot of this stuff will be covered for me also, because it is a lot. Okay, but I know there's a lot of new chairs that I haven't met yet, but hi to all of you. And please feel free to give me a call at any time. Okay? Thank you. Like Tammy and Marquise.
I'll attest to how lovely she is, so there you go.
Wasn't joking about talking to half of you in one day. A lot of questions that came up around a lot of things. Okay. Moving on to CB12.
Yeah, speak around here. All right, so this month, we're working really closely with DCP about the RFP on 9th Avenue. I think I mentioned it before. You know, I think the Eliza building got a lot of press attention, was all over TikTok. That was really great work, by the way, for the comps team here, which is a building on Dykeman that will have the Inwood Library. And, you know, it's just a really beautiful and amazing project. And so we're trying to replicate we have an even better opportunity to replicate that and more at 9th Avenue. So we're going to be working with them in the next 3 months on community tabling sessions, forums, being able to solicit ideas that will be built into that RFP. One of the projects is a STEM center that will be there. And, you know, obviously there's a lot of questions around AMI, distributions, access to the waterfront because it's going to be by the waterfront, a whole list of stuff. So that's our big stuff happening. We also this month across 3 committees, we're reviewing a variance with a brand new charter school, new to the district, American Dream Charter School. They're based in the Bronx, opening an elementary school. We will see how it lands this month, but you know, there are, and part of it is that the idea is that they occupy, I think, more than half of the Radio Hotel, which is a huge development. And, you know, obviously commercial spaces are not filling up as they used to. So, you know, from a business perspective, this is a great opportunity for our education committee. There's really serious concerns of the over concentration of elementary schools on that corridor. We have literally one on every avenue. So that saturation in terms of public schools and elementary schools is a big concern. So we'll see how it lands by the end of the month. This month, our cannabis task force reviewed their first batch of applications. There was only 3. I know downtown. I know I'm coming for y'all downtown. But with schools, you know, it gives us a very intimate discussion.
I'll move it.
An opportunity.
Let's do a chair swap.
Yeah. It was only 3. You know, I think next month we'll maybe only have 1. I don't think have y'all, well, you guys have had. So that's really the trajectory that we're at. But it gives us, I think, the task force more of an opportunity also to talk about other things that aren't, you know, our licensing committees are so bogged down that they only talk licensing. So I think Uptown will have more of an ability to talk about those business development points and have more presentations from them, and not just when they first appear. And then lastly, the midwifery services at Allen Pavilion been needed for around 2 months. Essentially, there have been changes to the services at the Allen Pavilion, and I think it's about 5 of the midwives are being transitioned to Columbia campus on 168th, and lots going on, a big labor dispute, but we do anticipate a resolution, especially speaking to preserving the midwifery services at Allen's. It's the main labor and delivery hospital uptown. And then I know I owe this group the survey. We're still kind of like tweaking some of the things. There have been more add-ons for the New York chairs. It's a board member survey that we're hoping to do annually, just to kind of do a temp check on like how folks are feeling, you know, what are the leadership positions, kind of get a sense of their commitments all over. We're also prepping for our final quarter. Part of that is that we're interviewing, I hope we're interviewing very, very soon for our part-time position, and then we should be releasing the full-time position, which is our community associate, very soon. And then we just last week actually had 2 big events, or meet the board at the Chop House, which I didn't realize folks thought would be an actual steakhouse. It is not. It is a store, a clothing store. And so it was a really cool mix of worlds. It's you know, streetwear brand. And so, and then, you know, usually for the board, we tend to have a very different audience. Let's just put it that way. So it's a really cool mix of worlds. We hope to repeat that again, actually, at the Chop House. They have like their Friday socials. And then also this weekend, or last weekend, was Carmen, our Councilmember Carmen De La Rosa's People's Assembly, which is part of her co-governance project. It was an amazing success. I don't think Kiana's still on. There was over 250 folks there from all across the district. Part of that was just to get a sense of what our priorities. Community boards are co-governance, and so I think it was a really great like opportunity to plug the board. Great timing because of applications as well. So we all had a really great time. We're gonna be collaborating with them more on the next one, which is in April, as well as also devoting, you know, board resources into that, since, you know, it's hand in hand. And I think that is it.
Thanks so much. And whenever CB12 gets some swag, I want dibs first.
Oh yeah, the swag is gonna come delicious.
I'm not even
worry.
joking about it.
I have our pin.
I told your board. Okay, last but not least, one.
First, welcome and thank you, everybody, for coming downtown to our offices. We're a little more intimate here than we are down in the Borough Presidents, but we really appreciate you being here. And you're welcome if you need our offices at any point, you know, just give me a buzz, let me know. Alrighty, so CB1 has had much like our fellow boards, it's been gangbusters. 2024 started out with a bang, is not showing any signs of slowing down. In January, I did mention that we had a meeting on a shelter. We got our 30-day notice in October and have yet to be able to get the provider to come to Community Board 1 and talk to us. It is directly across the street and adjacent to a pre-K to 8 school. And it is a men's shelter that the city's been working on for a couple of years. Now, I understand we passed a resolution last month with both Mark Levine in support at our meeting and Councilmember Marte demanding that DHS, DSS, and the provider come within 60 days to do a public hearing. That was passed at the end of January. Our anticipation is they will come in March, but they've told us that they don't need women's shelters. So I'm very curious to hear that you're getting a women's shelter in another community board, that they only need men's shelters right now. So
That's because they've decided they have ours.
I'll just leave that where it is. But we are working with them. The school directly across the street at all levels is unhappy for the lack of information, the lack of transparency, the lack of understanding actually what the neighborhood is and what's going on. It also has impact because at the end of that same street, there is New York Presbyterian's Downtown Hospital, which because there aren't enough mental health services and beds in the city, when you have mental health patients who are there, they are released in the morning because there's no place for them to stay and go. It provides a more robust street life, we'll put it that way, as people are walking their kids to school in the morning. So add that to the same street and the illegal cannabis stores, it's really been a bouncing neighborhood. So that's one. We have extraordinary congestion pricing concerns that have come. I did notice that our colleagues on CB3 and some people in the downtown community have sued over it, simply because the greater impacts that are, we have both the Brooklyn Bridge, the Holland Tunnel, and the Brooklyn Battery Tunnel, and they say that the congestion pricing will have a greater environmental impact on those areas. There are concerns for that. We are in general supportive of lowering congestion and things like that, but we passed a resolution last month with comment and concern, and once again requesting that they take a look for Manhattan residents for the way that they are doing the discounts, because you are asking somebody who makes less than $60,000 a year to choose between putting food on the table because they have to pay the toll for 10 times before they can get a tax credit. It seems really onerous. If we can figure out EBT cards for students, you can, through using Easy Pass technology, it seems to be an easy way that you're not telling people they have to take money out of pocket first. And then we also believe that it should be linked to AMI. I mean, our original resolutions asked for a full waiver for all residents in Manhattan. And then we passed a resolution, the final with the feedback saying it should be linked to an AMI, because you shouldn't be asking people who make, we said 160% of AMI or less to pay the tolls. It's just, there's too many costs and fees for residency. We don't have affordable housing that people can do. And there, so I'll leave that with that. We also, Plus Pools was a great announcement by the city and state. We're advocating for it to be located in between CB1 and CB3. We have no public pools in CB1, so we think it would be an amazing opportunity to do right near the foot of the Brooklyn Bridge in between Pier 17 and Pier 35, an opportunity to serve both the NYCHA housing that's in our area, inspire some tourism to the area, and a nice local amenity. Because quite frankly, there's no place you can actually put your feet into the water and legally use the East River. Whereas on the west side and further uptown, there are many other opportunities. Cannabis is overwhelming. From the illegal stores to the applications to, we had back-to-back meetings with hundreds of people online and 50 to 75 people standing in this room and down the hallway. The community board is not supposed to be someone who gets in the middle between the commercial condo and the residential condos to negotiate between them when you have an entire condo board of residents showing up here and doing petitions and hundreds of people against it, even if the location is viable by OCM. So it's a really untenable position for community boards to be in. We have no way of knowing where the closing or reporting, there's no number that once you report into OCM, if you reported an address, there's no way to know if it's been reported, no way to know if it's actually been followed up. There's zero information that comes back. 311 does not allow you to review cannabis applications because that goes to the state. So I'm looking forward to hearing Gail's step-by-step process from report to padlock, but it's painful. I'll just leave it at that. Land use is very robust right now with City of Yes. We also started to take a look at the applications that are coming to us that have resulted from the Water Street Tax Amendment and the conversion from commercial to residential. We have a lot of commercial buildings. We were a business district fully. We are no longer a business district, so I take umbrage that we are the central business district, we're just not. And all the older commercial buildings are being converted, or many, to luxury housing, which if it was luxury housing as it was 30 years ago, which meant that people were actually living in it and it wasn't, somebody's third, fourth, fifth home, that would be great. But what we're not seeing in Community Board 1, which is not helping our storefront retail and the streetscape vibrancy and other things, is people actually, it's not owner occupied anymore. And whatever we can do as a city to think about that, I think there's a real benefit for owner occupation for quality of life. We did pass a resolution on daylighting as well. And we've been looking at resiliency. If you have any interest in resiliency, please take a look. We have it 3 out of 4 sides. The Battery Park City Authority was given wedge certification for their work that's being done at Wagner Park and Pier A. But everything will be under construction from the tip of Manhattan up through parts of Tribeca for resiliency within the next 4 years. Licensing, we had a robust discussion last night on the bill for 8427A in the Assembly, which is for temporary retail permits for applications subject to the 500-foot law. We are not supportive of that bill because what we have seen in Community Board 1 is this is for spaces that have not previously been restaurants and bars to become restaurant bars and just automatically be able to get a license. We're not in favor of that because we're losing all the streetscape of other types of retail, which is an issue for us. And we have a huge growth of event spaces. And that is not helping congestion or anything that goes with how event spaces operate. So that'll come out this month. And then lastly, we are trying to work with DCP to understand what's going on with the POPs, our privately owned public spaces. Oh, this is second to last. And I say this because with the new rules that come out, what we see is a loss of public space. When you talk about outdoor dine NYC with the open restaurant program, there are rules and regs which can be 100% overdone by the chairman of DOT no matter what. So the end answer, even if it doesn't fall within the rules and categories, we still think that there is a problem that you're allowing people to serve alcohol across the travel lane, which is illegal by state law, but still legal under the DOT rules. That did not change. There are many other things that in the rulemaking that recently came out that really compromise a community board's ability to have dialogue. When it came to sidewalk cafes, open windows, access, and how the process of how the community files complaints and hears back, and how who's going to negotiate that with the restaurants when it's a revocable consent from DOT. So I take umbrage with the fact that the Hospitality Alliance is getting a full explanation from DOT on how this is going to all work. And the community boards, who are all volunteers, are not getting process questions, and we are left to public comment and not individual updates, either through the borough boards or anybody else. And I think that I would ask our borough president to ask DOT to come and address, in the same way that they are able to address the Hospitality Alliance, to address the community boards, so they understand and they can hear directly instead of individual meetings, public comments, and then waiting in silence, because we were not in the room when in the room where it happened.
100%.
Yeah. Yes. With that, I close my report. And if you're overheating, I am sorry, but it's not.
Good. Okay, go ahead, Ken.
No, I was gonna ask that actually of everyone also, like in terms of the dining program, if there are things that you like, process or things that you have to write your board, similar to how we did with cannabis, if you could just circulate that, so some idea sharing.
Go ahead, Xavier.
No, if she's done, there were
Yeah.
2 things I neglected to share.
Sure, go ahead. I'm
Real
gonna
quick.
be cognizant that I
Yeah.
thought we were gonna leave this
Yeah,
meeting
me too.
17 minutes ago, so go ahead, but go
Yeah,
ahead.
no, very important, our 2017 rezoning with the DSNY, we were supposed to get a consolidated M10, M11 garage. They put a temporary one on Old Potamkin site. We have put up recommendations where there's an acre of public land, city-owned land, to put a permanent garage. We have been fighting with them ever since that, and IBO has issued a report, and we're going to be taking up that. It's very important because we're the only communities that are having to warehouse 2 garages in 1 district. And they're still not releasing, per our agreement, several city-owned lots back for development. And a little bit, and the last bit is Richard Toussaint Park. We've asked for that to be renamed. Parks, DOT and EDC are stonewalling, and whatever help this office can give, we'd like to get that done before his widow passes away. She wants to see this happen, and I've tried every avenue since something's
Did
very.
he pass away?
Oh, years ago. Yeah, so this is, we need help on that. So, yes, thank you.
Okay, guys, thank you. We're gonna move on. Do I have a motion to, thank you? Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Great, thank you, guys.